Hello and welcome to This and That Tonya Review. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer.
La Shy, welcome back to the skating lesson. Finally, you're a mother. Where
Yeah,
have you
thanks
been?
for having me. Yeah, Luke was born. Baby Luke was born. He'll be 7 months on Saturday. So during the World Team Trophy, which I don't think bodes well for his future in being a gay figure skater.
You also didn't let us know that you were really having a kid. Like, you didn't give us a heads up. Like, I think I'm dropping or any of that. So,
What?
like, the days before my sister had a kid, like, we knew. It was a 5 alarm fire. Remember,
Uh,
the nurse yelled at her even during childbirth. Like, this is not my first nephew to come out. I've been ready. So,
well, I didn't know. Well, there wasn't any things happening that usually happen. He just came out.
remember my women's, I left you a voicemail that my women's intuition was coming at me, that I felt that you were gonna have the child.
You were right.
I was right. So we finally went to the movies together. You made fun of me for going to the movies a lot, and I don't know if we've ever been to the movies together, but now we certainly have.
Yeah, I don't think we'd ever been. I hadn't been to the movies in 4 years. I don't think I'd been to the movies since I saw Wild
Oh,
or
wow.
that other Bradley Cooper, Jennifer Lawrence movie that wasn't very good.
I loved that movie. I saw it twice. Once to see it, and then another time, I think I went
Not
out
for
during it.
the one
Silver Linings Playbook.
no, the one the next year they did.
Oh, American Hustle? Or
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, I think that. Anyway,
okay.
I haven't seen movies in a long time.
All right. Well, Tonya, we saw.
Might go back after I, Tanya.
Tonya, we saw at Lowe's in Lincoln Square. We got a invite from someone at PR. We got a +1. I brought +3, and you got to go. You with all of your gays, as you really enjoy to
That's
see.
the way I like it.
Yeah. All right. So obviously, you said that you didn't really get into skating until '94. Were you already skating before that?
Yeah, so I started skating when I was 6, which was 92.
Okay.
But I didn't really get into watching skating until
How did you start skating then? Did you go to a childhood birthday party and then?
no, I went to a school that had a half day on Wednesdays and had after school group lessons. And then so that's when I started when I was 6. And then 2 years later, the Tanya Nancy thing happened and changed the rest of my life.
Do you remember? Okay, so I got into skating in '92. A family friend had taken us, and she also said, "Oh, I think the kids will like this." My sister was moderately intrigued, and it was the day before my birthday. So my birthday is February 22nd. For anyone that doesn't know, Christy Yamaguchi won her. Send gifts. No, Christy Yamaguchi won her gold medal on February 21st, and I remember that my parents had taped. They showed me Paul Wiley the week before, and they taped the ladies short. And remember, we were eating pizza and watching it, and I said to my dad, "Oh, I kind of like this one." And it was when Tanya was on, and I distinctly my parents going, my mom saying, "No, you don't." And I didn't know why, but apparently the Newsweek article about her had come out about abuse with her brother and the smoking and she was a bad seed from way back when. And then I really liked Christy Yamaguchi. I went to bed. I woke up the next morning. She won. The rest is history. I think I took a photo with my reading club medal, pretending to be on the podium. It's look, gay childhood. Okay, so where were you when you found out about Nancy and Tanya in '94?
I have no idea. I mean, I remember maybe eating dinner at our kitchen table and hearing about it.
I remember hearing about it.
It's
I
Kobo.
def I remember hearing about it, and I definitely remember getting the paper the next morning, and it was on the front everywhere, and I was a little nervous because I had rewatched that '92 Olympic tape so many times, and if you started with the '92 Olympics, you definitely felt like skating and the Olympics is hard because they all skated like hell and looked really stressed out. Nancy's hair was pulled back so tight. My dad said she looked constipated. She looked really upset when she finished with her. Oh man, Tonya skated like hell. Midori was going down before she got it back together. So I remember being nervous for Nancy. So do you remember the coverage as it like? Do you?
Oh,
have,
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think I saved everything. I was like totally obsessed.
Because in the 90s, like, this was the first. Well, they say it's the first of the big scandals. Not quite true, because I remember when we were in first grade, we're the same age. We had the Waco bombing. We had like the World Trade Center happen. We had like my mom used to watch all those talk shows. So Mary Jo Buttafuoco, like that was all leading into this. But this was really top dollar. From day one, my family said that Tonya was guilty. I have to say, I think that's where the media kind of led us. I've thought about it 17 different ways since then. I think I've watched every documentary on it countless times. So this film written by Craig Gillespie was made by Craig Gillespie, who actually made Nancy's Campbell's Soup ad, if you remember it.
I do remember that. I didn't know that.
I read that on VanityFair.com today, and that was an interesting little tidbit. This is definitely from Tonya's point of view. We know that her agent, Michael Rosenberg, was definitely involved in the making of this film.
Old agent or current agent?
So old and current. He reunited. Not the manager that we always see that she said was like her godmother at one point. Remember when like at a certain point in the 90s, like this person became her godmother because Tonya had found God? Yeah, we've been through a journey with her.
Do we think Tanya's making any sort of money off of this?
So I talked to a couple of people in skating. They all said yes.
But, like, how?
I would think that the rights to your story, and maybe she participated. They definitely went out of their way to make her more sympathetic. And if she's not making money off of it, they definitely will make money for appearances for her, even if it's not like a lot of money. I definitely think that you get like $500 for talk show, but I think that she will be getting some sort of compensation for this. Right. They'd be an idiot not to, and I think that her agent seems very involved. So I have a feeling that they are. And someone said that she is his client again. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
Yeah, I asked Mama Ty. Mama Ty, by the way, is Team Nancy. She said that if she saw this, it would make her a hypocrite. So I said, okay, Mama Ty, but I saw it. So we talked about it. Because we talked about the lace. And this is my theory. We just have to get into it. We're going to get into this later. I think she faked that lace. Okay, Lot? Before a competition, you get your eyebrows done, you get your hair cut, you get a blowout, you get a bikini wax. You get new laces for your skates. And maybe we learned that from Tonya, but I think at the Olympics you would have learned by now.
Yeah, you also would dye your, polish your skates white.
Yes.
In the day. All right, so did you like the movie?
Yes. Okay, so I'm a movie, film, TV person. I rated it at IMDb. I gave it a 9. My 10 is hard to get.
Okay, skating judge Dave.
I am always operating at that form. I've given a 10 to maybe Nurse Jackie, The Sopranos, The Keepers. But a 9, which I gave Glow, was also... it's a pretty good score for me.
Glow?
Glow's the one about female wrestling on... Oh, Mad Men got a 10, too. Glow is on Netflix.
Oh, you kept talking about Glow. I remember now.
You just, ignore me when I go on, and then you're like, oh, yeah. Oh, that was good. Pause. Interjection. This week, Locke kept asking me about this show, Jersey Ice, because she's coaching at Montclair, where that one episode, horrible special, took place. And she's working with the coaches. And I was at work, and you kept asking me, wait, it was only one episode? And I thought that you somehow thought that this was a good show. And were upset that it was canceled and had some different recollection. But apparently not true.
Moving on. Back to I, Tonya.
All right. what did you think of it? What would you have rated it at IMDb?
Like a 0. I mean, it was like no, it was like a well done movie. I just found it so difficult to watch. Like if I hadn't been responsible for driving you home, I might have left in the middle.
Why?
Like it is an hour and a half of Jeff Galooly and the mother beating Tonya. And that was like so difficult for me to watch. I just like have a hard time. Like, look, I like my TV like very light. Like I like The Real Housewives, Southern Charm. Those are like my shows, not like the heavy stuff. And this was like very
Didn't
heavy.
you know it was coming though?
A tragedy. No, I didn't like really know anything about it.
So didn't you?
I was going to be watching Tonya like get beaten.
So have you seen the old documentaries that this was based off of and that kind of thing?
No.
Okay, so if you watch the 80s documentaries or watch the 30 for 30 on her and you...
Yes, I watched that. Well, I watched the big 30 for 30.
But if you watch the one where they show her mom, and sometimes they'll use that film, and that's the one that it was done by a friend of hers from childhood who went to Yale, did a documentary on her in the 80s, and it's a student film, but it's about 55 minutes. It was on YouTube until a couple months ago, which she took it down, because I guess this is her moment, too, every time. Tonya comes up every 4 years. That film shows Tonya, and they talk to the mom, and a lot of the quotes that Allison Janney, who plays her really brilliantly, does so comedically, those are direct quotes, a lot of them. I mean, not all of them are direct quotes, but the whole, if you can't tell Tonya that she's not going to do it, she's not going to do it. Like, you have to piss her off, basically. And a lot of the negative things, the mom just says freely, which is kind of shocking, and it shows you how unaware they are socially and how they are of a different class and a different awareness, and they just kind of say it. And it also shows, because she's with Diane at this point, late 80s, she splits with Diane, goes with Dodie Teachman, who's Diane's student, but it shows Barbara Flowers and Diane like trying to buy Tonya a dress to go to like either the Nationals Gala or the Skate America Gala, and it's really depressing because you just see how fish out of water they are, how they'd kind of it had been very communicated to Tonya that she was white trash, that she was nothing, that she didn't fit in. And I found that to be a really hard moment. I think that Tonya in the film in the 80s is much more of a victim than when you see Tonya later on in TV. And I think we can talk about that. So you give it a 0. You wanted to leave. Okay.
I mean, I thought it had like some funny parts.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like well done.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like just so tragic and so hard to watch.
Okay. Definitely tragic. It's a comedy drama. It fills the whole...
A comedy. Like, people, the whole...
It's a dark comedy, yeah.
And I'm like, this is some dark comedy. Like, emphasis on dark.
It's definitely a dark comedy. But, I mean, there were some... We'll get into the good parts, I guess, later. I don't know. I felt that... Yeah, I knew the abuse was coming. If you've read any of the Newsweek articles, it's pretty clear that, you know, they kind of hinted at sexual abuse, and I think it's pretty clear that Tonya was abused as a kid. I don't have any doubt about that. Physically, sexually, any of that, I think it's pretty evident. I think it's pretty evident in her demeanor, that things had happened in her life that she definitely experienced and lived too much. So the one part about the movie that bothered me is that I feel like, and it's an artistic choice, but then it kind of goes into the ultimate narrative, is that at a certain point, they made the character of Tonya to be kind of wimpy a little bit at certain points. And I don't know if that was just a commercial choice to make her relatable and likable, but they made her like she could have been any Emma Stone, Margot Robbie kind of character in another film, where things were just happening to Tonya. And at a certain point in her life, and a certain point in everyone's life, I feel like you ultimately play a big hand in your own, what happens to you. And Tonya certainly did. And there's a very, like, there's a strong physicality to Tonya. She's a very strong person, but she also has a big, if you watch a lot of the interviews with her, she's a lot of anger, and they really just did away with that. So, and when you don't have that anger, to me, I was talking to people, and they said that, it's a lot of her interviews is why it's so hard to believe that she didn't know because of how she reacted. What did you feel?
It's like they gave her the Nicholas Sparks treatment in the film, where they make her this, like, gorgeous, like, soft victim, and this, like, hard worker, and totally, like, the girl next door that just has these things happen to her and, like, come into her life so I was, like, upset about this.
This bothered me a lot.
The whole thing. But the whole thing was, like, upsetting. So then this morning when I woke up, I watched 93 Skate America.
This is the Blade problem, correct?
Yeah. The long program. And it's like, okay, sweetheart. She looked like
she was not in shape.
Dmitry Aliev.
Okay.
At his first Grand Prix. Like, never have done that long program all the way through. And look at me bringing in current skating. Yeah, she'd never done that long program. Like, she was not trained. She was very out of shape. Like, there's no sympathy for her. And they just, like, totally changed that around. Like, so we know how she was, like, late to Albertville. And the rumors was that she's, like, out partying, right?
Well, they almost kicked her off the team because she was so out of shape and not ready.
Right.
And she couldn't skate. And she had injured her ankle at Nationals. I thought that one part that they didn't really go into is that Tonya says that she was the best skater in the world at one time, which people will debate and argue about as soon as we say this in this film. And she does have a point that maybe at Skate America in 91, she felt that she was the best between overall in 91, perhaps. At different times, she felt she was the best between Nationals and then. She's definitely one of the best when she was on. But they don't go into the downfall that happened between Skate America and Nationals. I mean, it was kind of explained through Dove chocolate bars and her and Jeff having a destructive relationship. But they don't really go into what happened. Now, I don't think Tonya really is someone that knew how to handle success, how to handle pressure necessarily. But I also think that Dodie did a lot of things for her in her life. And they didn't really go into how much people tried to help her in her life and really dig into what happened in Albertville. And I felt like that was one thing from the film that really bothered me, if you know the story, is because apparently, her blade had a problem. She said it was backwards, but it was a lot of excuse making, which they do kind of, like, make fun of because she'll be smoking in her house and be like, not my fault. And throughout, but I felt that was a little difficult to swallow.
Yeah.
And then they didn't even touch on the next season when she was really fat and really out of shape and really, like, could barely do triples and was competing at some pro-ams at those nationals when she was fourth and didn't get to go to, like, they didn't get to go to Worlds. They didn't even show that at all. So right. I felt like that was difficult. And they also didn't really show Nancy's success during that time. And
right.
How many endorsements she was getting and everything. And I felt like that was one detraction too. Like, they completely take away any motive in the film.
Right.
And her twisted logic as you go into. So I felt like that was a little random.
Yeah. And it's interesting so this happened, like, when we were 8. And it's interesting, like, there was no scenario back then or even until now where she could have not known. Like, there was just no, in my 8-year-old mind, and even, like, now, there was no, like, sequential order of events where I could imagine her not knowing.
Because she always
So,
sounded like she was lying, and they've changed their story so many times.
right. And she was just so like rough.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Rough and snarky, and doesn't help herself. Like when she's. So apparently she said in the press conference after she won 94 Nationals, and remember the mother in the film wants to see her face. And it is like a very menacing, strange reaction to the 94 Nationals. Like she got away with something almost. Like it's a really weird demeanor, and maybe some people have taken it another way. I've always found her reaction to that program strange. Also, but it could be our perception of having seen it. But I remember that it's a little strange. And no one in skating, I mean, everyone knew that it was her. I think because there was so much happened that we know about, and then so much behind the scenes continually going on that we didn't even know about.
Yeah.
Perhaps on tour. I don't believe she and Nancy were friends on tour the way she would like to.
Right.
Which I think further kind of cements her outsider status. I don't think that anyone had much to do with her from that time. You certainly don't see her pop up in people's old Facebook photos from that era. So
it's just funny that so they show, and like we're not giving anything away here, but not that everyone doesn't know what happened. But so in the movie they reenact the part where after Nationals the press are all surrounding Tonya, and she says like, I'm gonna whoop her, like I can't wait to whoop her butt.
Yeah.
And in the movie part, that was like so. It felt like out of character for this sweet girl that they've built up. Where in real life, like that was Tonya 100%.
They also didn't show her like making the excuses with the asthma so much. They do show her smoking a lot, but that was so known at the time.
Seemed like a really hard worker.
Yeah,
and like that she was actually like committed to the Olympics and training and all of this stuff, which I don't think she was.
Right. And I think that, again, she's a victim of her upbringing, and maybe she didn't have stability and didn't have positive examples with her parents, but she also did have coaches who did do a lot for her. I was curious what you thought about the character of Diane, because to me, Diane, she's a difficult one, because Dodie's the one who was gruff. Dodie's the one in these documentaries that says, oh no, Tonya could beat up Jeff too if she wanted to. And in the movie, they only ever show Tonya fighting back. She's never the initiator. And and not that I think that she really abused him, but there's a lot going on here. I mean, Tonya saw dollar signs a lot, and it's pretty clear. Tonya was also a little bit full of it, saying that she could do the quad loop and that she did it in a commercial. First of all, if you've ever seen the Texaco commercial, you can't even show what jump she's doing. It's kind of hilarious. I mean, the delusion is really strong.
Right.
And I felt that they just completely just whitewashed a lot of that. You know, like out of there. So Diane, I felt like they showed Diane basically being like, you know, you're going to get a second chance. The Olympics are only in 2 years. Newsflash, they knew that way ahead of time. They'd never be able to, like, put on a Olympics in a couple of months. And, like, visits her as she's waitressing. I felt that the character of Diane seems, like, very naive. Later on, even though early on she and the mother, while I do believe the mother is completely menacing and just... pathological. Also quite bright in the fact of she recognized Tanya's talent, knew to take her to the top coach in the area. Diane knew the skating game, and she also, in the interviews, I've never been able to sure, and I asked Christine Brennan, is she just a Stepford wife type? Is there an element where Tonya obviously is her ticket to the top too? I mean, was she willing to overlook a lot because Tonya got her to the world level? And as a coach, I mean, that's your profession. You're making it too.
Yeah. But how much was she helping?
Right.
Like, soften her, or whatever it was she needed.
I mean, they were trying to soften her. And I think she did try, and I don't think she's a good person, but I think that, and she never speaks about it. You know, she never gives interviews and she doesn't talk about it. So I think it's interesting. The character Diane, I just wasn't sure. If you watch I think it was a Dateline where she's like trying this. If on 3 acts on 1996, has always had all of the Tonya Nancy saga, he calls it, and you see there's like a 2-part one. Also, when the mom comes to the rink and you see Diane talking, and she's like, "Tanya's so American. She wants to go to Skate America," and there's just like an element to Diane. I remember like she like says things for loud enough so that the cameras can hear them in the kiss and cry. Like, what a brave kid. And then she's talking about her asthma and how she's like allergic to flowers. And the whole thing just seems so ridiculous. That. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just was never so sure about Diane. If anyone knows, I mean, I think she seems like a sweet person, but I mean, she was in a tough spot too. She kind of had to play this up. Funny newsflash, the Romanian who was next to her, who they show you, because this is after Barbara Flowers passed away. I don't know if she choreographed Jurassic Park, but she is a gymnastics coach who was recently banned from the ranch because she was coaching Jordan Chiles, and she was like driving drunk with an athlete in the car. Newsflash, lots going on at the ranch in Texas.
Wait, what does that have to do with Tonya?
Remember the dark-haired woman in The Kiss and Cry with Diane and Tonya?
Yeah.
She is like a choreographer, but she's really a Romanian gymnast, which might explain why Tonya was so special artistically, but especially at that time.
Yeah.
And also, I've always wondered if they got rid of the dress that had the fake flesh cut out that was for Jurassic Park, why didn't they get rid of the fake showgirl dress that barely covered her rear that she wore in the short program that was equally tacky? Why did we never get rid of that dress? I just wasn't...
Who knows? But the movie did a very good job of recreating the dresses.
And the skating, down to the spins. I don't know if it was all CGI. I know Sarah Kawahara worked with Margot Robbie on it. But the choreography, the head rolls in...
Yeah,
exactly.
the popped sluts in the 94 Olympics, like how her legs were like, ah!
Yes, because they said the axle was CGI. They didn't see the rest, but I have a feeling all of the skating seems CGI. No one can skate like Tonya. It's funny is that Margot doesn't look like her, and they doesn't look like her on the ice, but then they put like big butt pads to make it clear because Tonya was known for having a big rear. So
it's also like how, like my mind, so Margot Robbie's obviously beautiful, and so is Sebastian Stan, and like how much more sympathetic you are to these attractive people, like to these beautiful people, which is such a weird thing but it's so true.
Yeah. I think, that bothered me. It bothered me just that they made her so much more sympathetic, but I think it's so many people, this is going to be a huge hit, this film. I think it's fantastic.
It's about time a skating mother, like, got a Oscar. Because
yes. I thought Allison Janney was fantastic.
And, like, we've been saying for years the skating is, like, where the drama is, where are the reality cameras? Mm-hmm. Like, look at these mothers, and this is...
I always said Ashley and Gracie, we could have a film about their lives. That would be equally as entertaining. But when we saw this, I think Allison Janney will definitely get a Golden Globe, because they tend to give it to a comedy. If this gets a lot of buzz, I think she could get the Oscar. I couldn't see giving it to Margot Robbie. Maybe if they do give it to her, I'll be so annoyed. I'm just saying it now. I
don't even think she'll be nominated.
There's a lot of buzz for her, and people say, oh, she's sensational. But to me, you know the real Tonya, I feel like maybe according to this script, she does a really good job, but...
But also, is it buzz because, like, we're nerds and we get figure skating Google alerts? Because I called my mother today to tell her about it, and she's, like, a big movie person. She might go to the movies more than you do, and she, like, had no idea what I was talking about. And I'm like, Mom, are you going to go see this? And she's like, no, like, what are you talking about? Why would I see a movie about Tonya Harding?
So, people in entertainment, this movie has been really big.
Critically acclaimed at some different film festivals.
It was runner-up at Toronto. It was in... So last year, the script had been circulating before it was picked up, and it was rated as one of the best scripts, if not the best script for the year, for 2016. Matthew Coulson's been on this for the moment it was ever. Even like someone wrote, her name down on paper. Our friend who's on all the film forums has been keeping us updated. I feel like I was there to film the movie. But it's in entertainment. I ran into someone from high school that worked.
It was interesting. So like there's none of like the real footage until the very end, where suddenly like show Connie Chung and Matt Lauer and like NBC News, which was an interesting thing I thought they did, and smart, because you're so into like the actual characters in the film that you're not thinking back to, you're not comparing them to like the real life events, where so many movies are like splicing in the actual footage.
Yeah, and I also thought that it was good because it makes it really exciting. And usually when you get to the Olympics in any film that's about a sporting event, it always seems really cheesy and really fake. And obviously it's really hard to capture that and the arena and all of that. Anytime that they were in the arena, I would say it's a little poorly done. Like it always looks. I know they filmed it in one arena in Macon, Georgia. That's where Oprah gave people.
Fun fact: my old student in Atlanta tried out for the role of young Tonya.
Oh, she didn't get it?
No, they went to the cooler in Alpharetta, and they like were requesting 6-year-old blonde girls who could skate, and they had like an open casting call, and she like came back and told me, and she was like, my back crossovers were beautiful.
Oh,
it was very cute. Anyway,
pause for anyone who's involved in skating. Brendan Carey is now with Nikolai Morozov. He left Tammy Gamble.
I told you that this summer when I saw him at Hackensack.
Right, but it wasn't official.
Yeah.
He's been in LA back and forth.
And wasn't Tammy at some competitions this fall?
Yeah. But then they got rid of Dennis Tens. She went by to Frank. That's always been... you never know what's going on with Nikolai.
Dennis was there too. Anyway, so like back to the Inaccuracies. I want these films. So we've discussed that this is like the most accurate skating film ever. Aside from Blades of Glory. But
on the cutting edge.
If you're spending so much money to produce a movie, like just hire us as your last minute consultant to be like, can you just change this? Like, why are Tanya's skate guards those really old? They're just like the ones that no one uses. Did you notice this?
I don't recall. There was a lot going on in this film. There's a lot to take in.
Also, did you notice that she had Jackson's skates on? Because they like zoom in on when she's retying her lace. And it shows that she's wearing Jackson skates. And I don't think Jackson was around then. I could be wrong. I don't think she wore Jacksons. I think she wore Harlech.
Christy wore Harlech.
I don't think Tonya wore Jackson. I didn't know anyone that wore Jackson.
I wear Jackson.
Till recently. I know, but they're like a newer skate. I'm like going to be totally wrong, and Mr. Jackson's going to come after you. Sorry. Also... So who was the hitman? Shane Stant or Derek?
Well, Shane Stant. Derek drove the car. Yeah.
And then Derek did the hitting?
No, Shane Stant did the hitting. The guy in the roids did the hitting.
Okay.
The ugly guy drove the car.
So we all know that Nancy walked through the curtain and he was behind the curtain and whacked her.
And hasn't been it told that that young Michelle Kwan kind of like pulled the curtain for her? That's been like retold in different areas that Michelle Kwan was right there.
We saw the video. She wasn't there.
I know she wasn't there, but in like some skating books, it says that like young Michelle, and like in one of those unauthorized biographies of Michelle Kwan, it makes it sound like she like held the curtain for Nancy, even though we've seen this video 1,000 times.
And did Shane like really tackle a random person once he busted through the plexiglass?
Unclear.
I
That
don't
might have.
remember that
I think
part.
that was. He did break through the plexiglass, but
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know.
It's also, I felt it was interesting watching this now, like now that I'm so much older and been out in the world, like there are people that I've now come across that are actually like these guys.
Yes.
That it was just like an interesting
Take.
I don't it's like I can totally see this happening. Like these are people who we've all come across before.
Sean Eckhart, to me, Sean Eckhart was my second favorite character in the movie when he talks about being an international espionage agent.
Yeah. There are funny parts. That was very funny. The whole like attack thing was very funny. The rest I was like, this is a tragedy. And then Nancy gets robbed by Oksana Bayul, which they don't really go into.
We did kind of. There was a gay gasp when they showed Surya, Oksana, and Katerina from our row.
I think it was you and Elkin.
It was me and Elkin. I don't even know if you were excited.
You cheered. Yeah. When they showed Oksana, you cheered.
I'm not very vocal in movies. I did really love the soundtrack. It's Fleetwood Mac.
You were laughing the entire time. I was about to be in tears. Elkin apparently did cry.
But he was also laughing a lot, too. He's very emotional during movies.
The whole place was laughing. I'm like, this is such a tragedy. What's wrong with you people?
Well, I think the rest of us who didn't go to a school that had ice skating in the afternoon knew that America was like this and that these bad things happen to people.
It's like so difficult to watch.
Listen, we didn't all have, like, The Help was not our childhood for the rest of us, okay? Like, we didn't all know this, all right? We were not a skating princess, okay?
Ugh. It's a tragedy.
It is. But, so overall, will you watch it again?
No. Absolutely not.
So many people want to see this film with me. I feel like I may have to see it 6 or 7 times.
Yeah, I have someone lined up who wants to see it with you.
Yeah, you haven't vetted this person.
I just pimped you out, sorry.
Yeah,
I was like, Dave is available. We will come into the city. Let's go to a place downtown. It's easier to find parking.
No. Oh, well. But what was your favorite line from the movie? There is one.
My favorite line was when Tonya says it's towards the end and, she's been beaten up this whole movie and she goes, Nancy is hit one time and look what happens. I've been hit my entire life.
You were really about the abuse angle the whole movie. I have to say my favorite line is when... So they structure the film it's pretty much the interviews, a compilation of interviews that Tonya has done. If you've seen the Anything to Win, if you've seen the 30 for 30, it's like structured as in like she's sitting in her kitchen where she does every interview apparently, and interspersed with people like sitting at their chairs in mockumentary style. And they're all talking about what makes the triple axel so hard. And you get to the mother sitting with the bird and she goes, and you have to make it look light as shit. Which Tonya sure as F never was. And it slayed me in the moment because that is how everyone always talked about Tonya. In Christine Brennan's Inside Edge, there's a quote from Evie Scottfeld that he would be able to tell how Tonya was going to skate based on the size of her ass when he passed her at a competition. Like everyone just completely talked about her body in a very similar way to the way people discuss Serena Williams. And even though it's wrong, there's something about it when it comes to Tonya. The things that would come out of people's mouths were just... Right. She had an effect on people. And
that, wasn't portrayed in the film.
No.
Not surprisingly, but Margot Robbie's this, very lanky person, obviously, and that's not... She's in very good shape the whole film.
I really... you kind of miss out on how... As the press started to descend around Tonya, she kind of liked it in some aspects before Lillehammer. She was not only distracted, but then she was kind of enjoying the press attention. Like,
Right.
and they kind of missed that aspect of the film. So
I thought that, so in my Tonya rabbit hole this morning, I watched 86 Skate America, where she was really good, and 15. And that part you could sort of see as like an accurate part of the film.
Okay.
Like, you know, she looked more like the character and looked very well trained.
Yes. I enjoyed Allison Janney's life advice as in the middle of it. Her whole thing about, are you the gardener or the flower, and the relationship.
You also really laughed when they said Nancy looked like she had stepped in poop.
When she got her silver medal. It was a great line. Okay.
Okay. Did you sort of feel like Margot Robbie like looked a little bit like Nancy Kerrigan?
Yes.
Or like talked like her? Okay. I did too.
There was something about the mouth and the teeth.
Yeah. They like looked alike. It was...
There's, I mean, it could be, it'd have to be a mini-series if you're going to have Nancy in it, so I understand. I think Nancy is going to flip when she finds out about them chugging the beers together and smoking together.
So is Tanya's this totally innocent bystander and like this just sweet girl?
Yes. Yes. So, yeah, I get it. But we want to know from anyone that has seen I, Tonya, what did you think? What would you rate it?
Team La or Team Dave?
Yeah. So obviously the big question of I, Tonya. Is there any possible way in your mind that the whole plot came down to death threats that went awry? I mean, first of all, the fact that they were going to give Nancy death threats is kind of just so minimized. Like, we're going to send her death threats in the mail. Just letters.
Yeah, and then it was like, but they didn't really go into why would they send Nancy death threats.
To freak her out. But obviously yeah.
So, I don't really... the death threats part was true. Like, Tonya received death threats.
She called in her own death threat to that competition.
Because she didn't want to compete at sectionals.
Regionals or sectionals, allegedly, yes. That there was like an embarrassment. She didn't want to have to go when she showed up there. Again, they completely took all of this out of there. That she didn't feel like she should have to go. But because she wasn't on the world team, they were going to make her go.
No. The answer to your question, no. But like, I don't know. What do you think?
No. The kicker for me is that she asked for... This is the thing where she has changed her story through the years so many times on why she called the arena to get the times for Nancy's practice. Right. And she's changed it to that she was... At one point, it was a photo of her, Christy, and Nancy, and that she wanted her to sign it for charity, because, you know, Tanya's very charitable, and I don't know if she said it was Special Olympics or something, but she wanted Nancy to sign it. But then that wouldn't explain why you need the times. She said it was a bet with Jeff. They've changed it so many times, but there's just... That, to me, is the damning...
Right. So do you think that finishing fourth at the Olympics, like, just messes with you and makes you a little crazy?
I think finishing fourth any occasion. I'm reading Fierce by Aly Raisman. She's very upset about being fourth right now. She says it's horrible. It is horrible. And I think, but if you look at who's been fourth at the Olympics, especially in the ladies, it's not been great.
Right. It leads to this.
I know. Speaking of, have you listened to the Radio Lab with Sandra lately? About people fourth, Surya when she was fourth. Have you listened to that?
Yeah, not recently, but I was, when it came out, or when it was about a year ago.
Yeah. Does that anger you a little bit too, the revisionist history?
But I also, like, that is, if you haven't listened to that podcast, go listen to it. It's so good. Like, it's so good. How the way, like, Sandra talks about skating and explains it is so articulate and so good.
And she was very upset about the way that the podcast came out, because she does kind of... She's the only one who is talking about, like, on her point of view. They have Elvis, Tara, Marie Renee Lagagne, and Tonya Harding also makes an appearance in that, and saying that Surya was robbed, and it's revisionist history a bit if you're from one school of thought. And Sandra's the only person on her.
Right, but I thought tell her this. Like, what she said is so right, so accurate, and so good that it shuts everyone else up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we want to know what you think of all of this when Tonya speaks. When she says that Surya has all the grace, all the footwork, all the running and the gliding. She's hilarious. But yeah, what are you most excited for, I, Tonya? If you've seen it, what did you make of it? All right, hold an edge and look sexy. Bye, guys.
Guys.